So just having a look at a few of the key charts of interest. There's heaps more charts that I could have put in this video, but I'm just picking out the main ones just so I can look back on it. It's just my own interest to see what I was looking at the time, and it's interesting to review down the track once you see how it actually turns out. But so we've got the weekly and daily S&P 500. It's sold off quite hard now. It's quite far from the mean now, so it's trying to mean revert back up here to the 100 MA. It's got now this, what was support, it's going to be now heavy resistance. So whether we get a test of that 2620, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at that level, but still momentum strong to the downside on the weekly. So it's very, once you get, as I said in previous charts, once you're below this histogram line, this centre line, what I call the centre line on the MACD, and you're still bearish, and plenty more bearish evidence to go with it too. So what I'm hoping for is this rallies and then it comes even down to test this level here. I wouldn't even be surprised if we get a test at this level back down to here, but it depends on how things play out, and you can't make forecasts because there's a lot of other forces going on in the market that you can't. This is the S&P 500 weekly with the VIX. The weekly VIX here is still very much in the bearish zone, so they're saying test up to this level here. The Kijenson's gone flat now, so it's a little bit of a bottoming formation there. This is still potential for downside though. As long as the VIX is above this red line, you've still got potential for downside. Breadth is extremely weak. It's the weakest it's been since the GFC, and it doesn't look like turning up at the moment on the monthly, so this can turn up during the month. It doesn't have to wait till the end of the month, it can turn up again, so it's not turning up at all at the moment. Given the recent rally, I would have expected this to turn up a little bit by now, but it's still showing strong downside, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, whether it turns up or whether it's indicating that there is a lot more downside to come in this move yet. You don't want to try and guess what it's going to do, but the weekly VIX is still showing, the weekly MACD on the VIX is still showing strong momentum to the upside, but it is far from the mean now, from the moving average on the daily here now. It's trying to come back, to retrace to mean revert back here, but as long as this on the daily is above the histogram line, then as it was here, as long as it's above this centre line, then you can expect there's a potential for more downside. Even if it does retrace, it can still spike back up again. It can still, as it has in the past. And I'm quite sure this downside's not over yet. Nasdaq weekly and daily was the Nasdaq still showing momentum to the downside, but it could go into a bit of a consolidation for a while. But the key level is up to this 7,000 here, so I don't know whether it's going to be a test up to this level or not, but it's hard to say at this stage. But it's almost, I'd be very surprised if it, what I'm looking for is a lower high somewhere below the weekly Kumo here, and then turns back down again. That's what I'm expecting to happen. I'm not saying it will, but there's plenty in 2016 it looked like a confirmed reversal, and then turned out to go on to rally strongly afterwards, so you never know. So this is Nasdaq with the Nasdaq VIX here, still very much potential for downside here on this. So just hit this key support level here, and it's bounced off it a bit, but now the key resistance is going to be when it could go into a counter trend rally and test up to the Kumo, but it's hard to say at this stage. Breadth has to improve before we see any sort of strong move to the upside, but it's not looking like it at this stage. But Russell small caps had a bit of a small rally since that sell-off there, but it's going to be now the test of this resistance on the way back up. If it does get up to this level, we'll have to just watch this level as it comes up, but it's certainly momentum still strong to the downside at this stage. So what do we say, where's it going to be in 6 months, because that's irrelevant. What we want to know is what's it going to do right now. The answer is the DAX has been great shorting here when it broke through this key support level here. It just cascaded down, and it still looks like it's got momentum to the downside. So it could put in a small reversion back up to the 100 MA, but the momentum is still likely to be strong to the downside. Nikkei had a massive rejection off this 100 MA here, and it's showing strong momentum to the downside still. Again, has been really strong, so it's been putting a lot of downward pressure on the Nikkei. The Hang Seng is just forming a bit of a consolidation here on support now, and it'll be interesting to see. This is going to have a large impact on the ASX as well, so see what happens with the China-US trade agreement, or if there ever is one, or it's going to have a large impact on the Hang Seng. At the moment, this downtrend seems to have run its course, but not to say that it can't continue lower from here either. So see what happens with that one. This is the fan mags. This Amazon and Apple and Microsoft and Netflix were leading the charge, but Facebook and Google have come off a bit now. So this fan composite that I made, this composite is still below the market, so there's upside potential there still, but it doesn't look very strong at the moment. It looks quite weak, and there's nothing to suggest that this is going to be a sustainable rally yet. See what happens. The US dollar's been weakening as I expect. The MACD's now crossed down, and it's just holding the Kijans in here, but daily's right on the 100 MA, so that was most likely the double top there, and it's turning over. With the Fed now getting more dovish, and only 2 rate hikes expected this year rather. This year it's 2019 already. Yeah. This year they're going to have 2 rate hikes most likely, and some people are suggesting they might have no rate hikes at all, but I think they're going to have at least 1 or 2. But the weekly junk bond, weekly 10-year is it's turned off the top here as well. So as the Fed's become dovish now, so since mid-November it turned off the top, so that's signalling weakness in the dollar as well. And crude oil weekly has been fantastic trading, and the daily downtrend is still intact here, but looking for a move back to the upside. It's still got momentum to the downside though on the weekly, but looking like oversold now, so looking for a move back towards the mean here, but certainly fantastic trading in 2018 on oil. gas was the same. Gas was great. Gas was now gas is put in a full reversal now, and it's been fantastic trading to the downside on some of the leveraged ETFs as well. So going to be further downside by the look of it in gas to come. So it's been a good one. Gold's been rallying quite strongly. This is gold's been rallying in reaction to the weaker US dollar. So it's been some nice trades on gold stocks. Emerging markets, looks like emerging markets are putting a double bottom here with the weakness in the US dollar. It's going to be a big help to the whether we get a rally or not in emerging markets or not. It remains to be seen, but it looks like if the US dollar does continue to weaken, then it should rally. And junk bonds, this was earlier, the sell-off we had earlier in the year in stocks was confirmed by this junk bonds when it broke below the Kumo here, and then the second down leg was what we had in October when it broke down below. Junk bonds broke below this key support level going back to here, so here that was a key support level, and once we broke through that, then the stock market followed. And this is one of my most important charts to follow. What happens on this junk bond charts is very important to look at, because it presents what happens in the stock market as well. So the market had already really reversed back here in January and never recovered back above the Kumo. So that was why I was taking my bearish outlook on stocks from right back from very early in the year. I was preparing for downside in the stock market. Dow Transports, this is a key indicator chart as well. It's rejected off the 100 MA here in just early December and just tested down to this key level, support level now. So it's getting a bit of a rally, but we'll have to watch what happens if this breaks through. Then there's more downside in the stock market as well. So that's about it. I think I'll leave it at that for now, but that's the main points anyway. But just have to see what happens. Bye for now.